Hey everyone, hope all is well, hope all are good. Well, this today is a little different as opposed to equipment. It's all like working on process. It's I have noticed that I use a certain amount of tools. I used to have a ton of plugins, and I'd go through them and I'd be faced with, because obviously now we're in the digital world and your mixers on screen and stuff like that, you've got options, whereas back in the day you'd be on a mixing desk and it'd be EQ, maybe a little compression if you've got that, or any external stuff that you've routed via bus onto your workstation and stuff, workstation onto your mixer and things like that. It's very, very different now, and it's in a good way, because you can select whatever you want. So the thing is, I just thought about, and I thought, obviously there's been things with Waves plugins and all these different companies now charging subscriptions and stuff like that. That's not what I'm going to get into. It's really just because of that, it's made you think about what do you actually need and what do you actually use. Now, in terms of my process, and especially for recording and then mixing and mastering, I'm going to focus on the mixing and the recording and mixing though, initially. So got like set things that I use, then I'll look into the other plugins and see what will suit and stuff like that. So my general default on mixes is usually the EQ and compression, and I'll come to that in a sec. But let's say I'm starting with this project that I'm working on at the moment. I just thought I'd focus on this one because it's a slightly different. It's back to sort of my roots, literally. It's a dub track which is going on my my album, which is a lo-fi album, but I wanted a track that reflected where I grew up at that particular point in time. And I noticed most of the tracks convey an image. You'll see what I mean when I sort of label each track and go through the project, and won't get too much into that. I know I digress slightly, but this needed to focus very much and bring the essence of where I grew up. So it had to be a dub track. Had to be, because it's very much the culture, what was there, very much deeply embedded in reggae roots, dub, lots of musicians and stuff like that. So I thought I'd do something that reflected that. So I noticed just like obviously using Ableton, and I was played the bass line, did some bits and pieces. There are loops and samples in here, as I always do, but I mean they've been chopped and tweaked and turned and all sorts of stuff. And but I always chop stuff up into like the individual components, like notes, and then play it, and then rearrange it, play it, and things like that. So most of the time I'm going for sound, and that's it. Just I might hear a particular sound and I want to shape that sound, play it in a different way. So the original sample, where it came from, it could have been from a sample from an instrument, would have been manipulated. It's just the sound at that time. So I noticed when I'm in Ableton, I could go, let's say, go into each track. I don't put many effects on, but I thought I always go into Ableton first and then do my recording. And as you can see on the right hand side, I've laid it out, done the mix, and if I go to the other screen, the track's laid out, it's all sequence. So I will go along, and because you've got the flexibility of push to be able to move around and change your scenes accordingly, and then you can build up your own arrangement and things like that. So that's what I've done. So I've got mine laid out here. It's about 3 minutes long, but I normally don't put any effects on Ableton, and I usually leave that to, what have we got here, till I export everything, and I transfer it into Pro Tools. And then in Pro Tools I will sort of go ahead and then add effects on each track. So usually once I get into Pro Tools, after I've exported all the stems out of Ableton, I'll go in and then I'll add EQ and compression. So I'll have a listen, do a quick balance of where I want things to be laid out, and then I will put a 7-band EQ. And then start to mess around with the EQ to shape the sound, just to give it that final tweak and tidiness that I'm after. And because I always find that the plugins in Pro Tools are the ones that I want. I just realized, hold on, these are all VSTs. I could actually do the whole thing in Ableton, but there's a convenience for me in Pro Tools. I know people have been dissing Pro Tools and stuff like that recently for various reasons, but hey, it's you either pay for it or you don't pay for it. And just say, for me, I'm very fast in Pro Tools, and it works. And for now, this is what I'm going to go to for mixing and mastering. It may change in the future, but then I tend to just go in and go, okay, I want my CLA compression on there, and I tend to go into the preset, start me up, and then just either tweak it or leave it from there. Most of the time, it's just set and left, and that just adds this vroom. Suddenly it's got this compression, this sound on it, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do with it next. So let's just have a quick listen. Hopefully it's not too loud on here. So I focused on, let me loop a section. Let's just do a quick loop, and in this one I've just got the EQ, compression, and I've got an exciter on there as well, just to give it a little bit more sort of character. For most of the sounds it's EQ, CLA audio. Then sometimes I will add in an SSL channel strip or an SSL compression, or an SSL-G channel, just to get that SSL flavor in there as well. And then that's kind of it. Depending on the sound, how I want to shape it, I spend a lot of time in it. You can see this is quite drastic. So what's this one? Let me solo it quickly. That's the bass. So all I've done is taken off the top end. I've just done a gain cut of -dB on the high frequency shelf, and cut mid slightly, and then that's it. So just taking off the highs off there, just to give the high frequency sounds space, and all the others is just really just a little tweak on the sound. I haven't finished this mix yet, so some of it's untouched. What's this? Okay, that's just a quick drum loop, and I've just sort of tweaked it slightly, but I'm going to probably take off it had some high-end hi-hats in there, so I've left that, and that's it. So yeah, as I said, it's just I always start off with these and then see where I'm going to add to. There are some tracks what's loaded with effects, but for me usually it's and remember, this is the default EQ, and then the CLA compression. The CLA 2A is what I usually go to next, and then after that, once I've got that done, which is the framework of the track, then I will start to shape it and see what else it needs. What other flavor does it need? What other color does it need? Anything that I need to, add or take off to just, either reduce this, give it some sparkle or not. So that's it. Just a quick video on that in terms of a go-to tools, and that gets me up and running really quickly. So yeah, just a quick EQ, quick compression. Once you find your favorite compressor, I mean, it's a bit like buying an outboard gear. Once you've got it, you know you're going to use it all the time. I've kind of done the same, but in the box, in the door, just say, okay, this is what I go to, because I can, if I want to shape it, I mean, I don't always stay on the default one. I do tweak it depending on what the sound is and what I want to do. I may end up with a compression sequence. I might have 2 compressors on here. There is another one that I end up using, which is the CLA 76. I'll definitely chuck that in there in a chain somewhere once I've sort of moved further down the mix stage and stuff. But I just wanted to do this as this is what I start with, gets you going, and then from there you can shape the sound and tweak it to your heart's content. That's it. Anyone, what are your mixing how do you start off? What are your mixing sequences? What are your mixing ideas? And do you have go-tos and stuff like that? So yeah, my go-tos are the default 7-band EQ, CLA compression, CLA 2A, and the CLA 76 where required. If I don't want to do too much, I'll add this. I'll add no, sorry. If I want just a warmer feel to a particular sound, I'll put the 76 on. And that seems to do what I need it to do and stuff. And then that's it. So yeah, guys, what do you use? Do you have a particular chain that you use all the time? Or do you have, do you start from, just have a listen and see what it needs and stuff like that? As I said, I'll have a listen and put some EQ in there. In this case, I actually put the compression on first, and then I added the EQ. Normally I lay out all the EQs, but I thought, okay, I don't want to overload the track with things that it doesn't need. I'm trying to be a bit more selective these days, and that's it. So there you go. Yeah, what do you use when you're doing when you're recording, and what do you use when you're doing a mix? Anyway, have fun. Speak soon and have a great day. Don't forget, like and subscribe. I always forget. I usually put it up, but guys, like, subscribe, and share your ideas. Okay, have a great one. Keep producing, keep mixing. See you later.